friggin' insane.
Yeah,
Like those
yes.
people are on another level, but must be incredible for your mind, like mental resistance, as it were.
Yeah.
But yeah, what were we talking about? When did you finish uni?
So I graduated uni last year in July.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. And what did you actually study again?
So I studied computer games programming.
Mental.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's so we were talking a little bit about this earlier, but when I was younger and, you know, at the appropriate time to go to university, I wasn't in the headspace for it at all. So coming back as a mature student, so I started university when I was 30 years old. And, you know, previously I hadn't even used a PC for the last decade. So I didn't even have any experience in that realm either.
Wow.
But I had to make a decision because I was a full-time domiciliary care worker. And that just meant I would go around to people's houses and help them live independently by supporting them, which was incredibly rewarding personally. But it wasn't the kind of, you know, if I want to make my life, if I want to be able to live somewhere and rent somewhere and pay my bills, I can't keep doing this forever because it's not feasible.
For sure, yeah.
So I had to. I remember I was sat with one of the guys who I used to look after, and actually we're still friends now, and we still keep in touch. And he could tell that I was down. And we had a little chat about it, and he was like, "Well, why don't you just try? Just, you know, make the phone call, make the tiny little movement that you need to do."
Yeah.
And so I called the clearing hotline, and I said, "Hey, I'm kind of interested in doing this course." And they said, "Okay, well, do you have any kind of GCSEs or whatever?" I said, "Yeah, I've got 8 A to C GCSEs, and I've got some like college qualifications as well." And to my surprise, they were like, "Cool, we can get you in on that course."
Yeah.
And I had to start, you know, it was a skill that I had no experience in, zero, none. Like
Right.
my first, I remember the first like coding lecture that I had was, it's a really simple program, and it's something that you do when you learn how to program languages, and it's called Hello World. And it's the very first thing that you do. So the objective is to get Hello World to come up on the screen when you run the program. It took me the entire lesson to get that sentence to appear. And what a sense of accomplishment I had when I got it to appear. However, I was sat next to a very, very bright spark indeed. And they had been coding since they were 10 years old. So by the time she'd even said "Hello World," she'd already done it 6 times.
Yeah.
Right. So, and it really, I was like, okay, you've got to be able to start at the bottom with a new skill, and you've got to be able to learn to crawl, and then learn how to walk, and then learn how to run. But it has to be in that order, because the moment that you try and overstep, you know, like immediately I was like, okay, well, I can do programming now. It's like, nope, you have no idea.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess also something like having all those other people who are at different stages in your peripherals as well, that you've kind of got to like shut out and just focus on you.
Absolutely.
And you are literally starting from ground zero.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's really cool. And how did you kind of get around? What was running through your mind? Did you have that kind of stuff getting inside your head, or did you find it easy to shut that kind of voice out?
I mean, it's interesting you say that, because a lot of the guys that went to uni, or at least of my peer group that was there, a lot of them, this was still their continued journey of education. So they've gone straight from school into college, straight from college into university. And for some of them, it was their first time experiencing independent life. So they took full advantage and did all the parties and all of that stuff. And I I had a very different mindset because I wanted to get that skill set. That's the whole reason for me doing it, and it's the whole reason for getting funding and paying all those student loans and everything else. And I wasn't there to socialize really. I mean, fortunately I did make some really cool friends along the way, and we're still working together on stuff, which is really nice. But my primary directive was to go and learn the skill. Learn how to do it. If I want to be able to make games in the future, here's the golden opportunity.
Cool.
Yeah. So
Right.
I would do, when everyone else was out doing their Freshers Week parties, I was studying how to do Hello World in the most efficient way that I possibly could.
Right.
And I would work, I mean, I would work from I'd have lectures in the morning, get back for about 3 o'clock, and then I'd just work until 11:30, midnight, sometimes way into the wee hours of the morning. Yeah, and it's having that, making that decision to actually fully involve yourself,
Yeah.
and fully get involved and push it as far as it will absolutely go.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of the time, and I'm guilty of this just like anyone else is, but sometimes there are opportunities that are presented in front of us, which we either don't see as opportunities in that time, or we brush them aside. It's like, oh, well, I wasn't really going to do that anyway.
Yeah.
Sure.
I guess the advantages, again, of being a mature student, going back in, you've obviously given that thought of going to uni some thought.
Absolutely.
And it kind of, I'm not saying young people don't work hard. I'm
No,
sure
of
there's
course.
loads of hardworking
No,
people,
not-
but
yeah.
it kind of cemented that mindset of I'm going to really make the most of this time round.
Yes.
Yeah, amazing. That's
Yeah.
super cool.
Well,
Super cool.
I mean, the other thing about being a mature student is that because I didn't go to university before, I had the opportunity to get student loans and things like that, but you only get one chance. So if you squander the opportunity, then it's like, well, great, you've just been at uni for 3 years and you have nothing to show for it.
Right.
So it was get involved. And I mean, dude, I had to do A-level physics, A-level maths. I had to do C++. I had to do all sorts of coding paradigms and what have you. And it was hard. There's no two ways about it. It was difficult. But again, you break it down into the smallest portion that you can understand and you go from there.
Yeah.
Because that's the only place that you can go from. You can't just assume that you know stuff. You have to actually break it down to the point where you really understand it.
You absolutely get it and then move on.
Yes.
Take the next step.
Yeah, you have to.
And just build from there.
Yeah, you have to.
Which is something I'd say I have only myself at 30 years old kind of accepted and embraced that thing of okay, if I'm going to learn something, doesn't matter how slow you get there, but make sure you're understanding everything step by step, because there's a whole bigger picture to understand.
Absolutely.
In anything, any subject we're talking about. And it's some bits may be really boring, but you just have to keep that mind frame of it's to the greater good.
Yeah.
No, but it's to the overall thing down the line. Just cementing those little skills makes all the difference. Like guitar, we both play guitar.
Yep.
Your technique, even though everybody has their own technique and their own way of playing.
Yeah.
But the fundamentals, I've seen that, my playing has essentially suffered in areas just because of the really mundane, boring,
me too.
fundamental things weren't down there in the beginning. And, I'm relearning it now. But, if anyone is going around first time at something, just, keep it in mind of that just cementing the really, really basic fundamentals. And that led you to benefit at the end, graduating.
Yep.
How did it work out in the end?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's funny that you talk about music, because actually because of the background that I had in performing music as well as writing music and things like that, it put me in really good stead at university, because a lot of that is pitching in front of your peers and pitching games, and then also being able to make soundtracks and score games and do Foley sound and things like that when no one else in my immediate vicinity on the course knew how to do that, whereas I was the only person who knew. So in my first year, one of the first projects that I did, I actually got 100% for, and the reason being is that I made my own game, and I put a soundtrack to that and everything else, and it had 3 levels, and it ticked all the criteria for the coursework. But the reason why I got 100% is because I also did 2 other people's games soundtracks.
Wow.
Yeah, because I had the capacity to be like, okay, well, I know they kind of gave me a rough brief of what they wanted. I was like, okay, cool. So I know how to do that. I'll put it all together and then package it up. And yeah, I got 100% for a piece of coursework, that has never happened to me previously.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so sick. Yeah. What a feeling that must have been. Yeah.
But I mean, so I did a foundation year course. So it was 4 years. And I wanted to do that just so I could really understand, when you're learning a new skill, you have to be okay with starting at the beginning, and you have to be okay with taking tiny steps and not really seeing, loads of progress straight away.
Yeah.
But one of the things that it ingrained in me from the start was I will just work and work and work and work and work. Like it never stopped, and it still hasn't stopped now. Even though I graduated a year ago, I still work until midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock sometimes. But I went from a place of I was kind of behind the average of the group who had been coding for a few years and kind of knew some paradigms already, and I had no idea. I had like not a scoop, mate, not even the littlest bit. But eventually that gap started to become less and less and less because people were out partying and not studying. So that gap between me and them was very soon. I got to a stage where I was then equal them, and then I would start surpassing them as well, because they would stay at this level because they still have the mindset of it's kind of party season for me. Because I'm now, out of home, and I've got a little bit of money from my student loan, and we'll just go and party and do the uni life. And that's great. And that works for some people, but you don't want to get yourself in that amount of debt to party for 2 years.
Sure.
It's just not worth it. So anyway, I managed to get my act together, and I worked constantly throughout all of that, and eventually I graduated with a first-class degree with honours, and I also got the award for best game as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is just insane. Yeah, that is just so cool to hear that you've put in the time, applied yourself to something that you knew absolutely nothing about. And I mean, I guess you're sharing that just for the sake of, I don't know how you feel, about yourself and your own abilities, but anyone thinking of doing that should, because they might surprise themselves
very much
on
so.
the outcome.
Very much so.
Which is so inspiring, man. My brother told me about your results, and I was just like blown away, because I was also thinking about going back to uni at some point for a few different things.
Yeah.
I haven't gone back as of yet, but I think it's the fact that I think over the years I'd kind of noticed a pattern in myself where I'd try loads of things, just give up. And it's just so cool and inspiring to think that, like, if you just apply yourself, do the work, it's you're going to see the reward.
Yeah, for sure.
And maybe exceed the expectations that you might think, a 2-1 is not nothing at all. And, or like even 2-2. I mean, I don't know, but like, these aren't nothing results, but shoot for the stars kind of thing.
I think you have to, because previously to starting university, and I mean you probably remember this as well. I wasn't in such a great space, to be honest. I kind of lost. I lost all kind of belief in myself. I lost all my confidence, and there was a few factors involved in that. But all the stuff that I either chose not to take accountability for, or just kind of let it sit and fester and rot and become worse and worse and worse. But it's that closet that you just chuck everything in. And eventually that became too much. And I when I was kind of 25, 26, that was probably the darkest point in my life that I've experienced. From, when my dad passed away when I was 17, 18, that had a very, very negative knock-on effect for all of my relationships. Because what happened was you know how we were talking about Afterlife earlier with Ricky Gervais and all of that, and the grief can make you so insular that you just think that it's happening to you. And that's definitely something that obviously it was happening to the whole family, and there are aspects of that. But for me personally, it just meant that I felt like other people were just too scared to talk to me about how I was actually feeling.
Right.
Because it was so bad. And it's easy to lose yourself in that if you're not careful. But what I would say is that even in the darkest moment, I think one of the things is that you have to really appreciate what suffering is in order to actually see what the plus side is. Because there's a lot of people in life, and everyone has their own baggage and their own suffering and their own individual problems, right? I'm not discounting that at all. But when you really hit that wall of like, I don't know where this goes now. I don't know, like, I couldn't even see what tomorrow was, whether I would be around or not. Like that was quite a big thing. And the thing that changed it was making tiny, tiny, tiny movements in my life to make something the smallest bit better, like the smallest task that you can actually manage, not, I'm going to go to the gym 5 times this week and then you feel guilty because you only go once. Like, just to start off with, just go and look at the gym. Don't do a workout, just go there, acclimatize yourself in it, see what the machines are, see what the environment's like, and take that as a win. That's the win, not the, you'll get to the point where you do 5 workouts or whatever it is that you want to do. But it's the smallest change, and actually having a little bit of belief in myself again, which for the longest time was completely absent. I kind of packed it in, mate. I was like, well, this is my life, better get used to it.
Right.
Which is defeatist,
Sure. So give us an example. What kind of things helped you process the stuff that you've been bottling up? Did you reach out to friends? Did you have any kind of like therapy, things like that?
Yeah. So I would also say that there was some there were some other contributing factors with the company that I was keeping, which affected me in a bad way, because I was bad anyway, but unfortunately this just made me worse. And one of the I think when I started to do my PTSD counseling, because yeah, okay. Yeah, all right, we'll go there. So I found The worst day of my life is I found my dad about 2 days from death, and I was the only one there. So I had this crazy push of it's almost like intuition. Like I know something is really wrong, and I know that something's going on. And I was in college. I was in the middle of media studies, and I had this overwhelming sense of I need to go and see my dad right now, and it can't be tomorrow, it can't be over the weekend, it can't be like I have to leave this moment. So I did. I got up and I packed all of my shit and I bunked the train to Weybridge because I didn't have any fucking money.
Right.
But I didn't know where he lived. So I called my grandfather, and my grandfather told me where he was living, and so I went and I found the block of flats that he was staying in, and not a particularly welcoming sight, shall we say.
Sure.
So I find the door and I knock on the door. No response. So I know this is the number, and I know this is where it is, and he's not going to be anywhere else. So I knock on the door again. Still no response. And then I open up the letterbox and see whether I can see any kind of movement or anything at all. And I shout through the letterbox, "Dad, it's me. Come and open the door. And about 5 minutes goes by, and eventually I hear shuffling and some sort of movement behind the door. And my dad opens the door, and he is a skeleton of a man, which clearly hasn't eaten any food for the last 2 weeks, probably. Had just been drinking, and I remember walking into his flat, and the only kitchen appliance that he had was a black kettle. He didn't have a sofa, he didn't have a bed, there was nothing. It was plastic bags,
Completely empty,
with white lightning that was up the side of the wall. And that was his life. He had just completely given up. And that's the moment. That's the moment that the PTSD would pick me up and drop me back in. And I'd have to experience that over and over and over and over again, which was, it was killing me. In year 2 of university is when it actually really took hold. So having the PTSD therapy, where for me, it would just, as I said, it would just pluck me out of reality and dump me back in that moment just so I could experience it again. And it was like looking at a massive cinema screen. It's completely overwhelming. There's nowhere that you can escape to. This is just what is happening to you right now. And this brilliant lady from the counselling service, she helped me work with it, because I think one of the misunderstandings of people is that you can just get rid of stuff that happened to you and just delete it and like it never exists. But that isn't true.
it's gone somewhere.
Yeah. And because everyone
Inside
carries
still,
it.
yeah.
Everyone carries it. It's always there. It just depends what the size is.
Right.
So what we were able to do is take it from being this cinema screen that's completely overwhelming you and turn it essentially into a postage stamp. And I still have that postage stamp, and it lives in my wallet and it goes wherever I go, and it's never going to go anywhere. But I can now objectively look at it out of choice, not by being triggered or what have you. I can look at it out of choice and understand what was happening there. That threw me for a loop for a long time.
Right. Yeah, and your dad's passed, so
Yeah. So my dad passed when I was 17.
right.
Yeah.
Damn, man. Yeah. Sorry about that, because I think of my own family when you say things like that. My dad as well, and I know that he's had his struggles and things like that, and I think many episodes of really thinking it's at the point or something like that, and feel blessed that haven't gone through that yet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one day, obviously, you hope to think it's the way around that you do lose your parents, but not in a way that feels like it's just not the way that they should go.
Yeah.
And that's terrifying to think about that. And so, sorry, I don't want to go over it too much in any detail, but did you lose him that day? Or
No. So essentially what I did is I called my auntie outside the flat, just, you know, in bits, as you can probably imagine.
Yeah.
And we got the paramedics there. And here's one of the things about that day that was so harrowing for me is the amount of just disdain that these paramedics and GPs had for my dad because of the choices that he had made by, you know, drinking himself to death, essentially. And I was like, are you not supposed to be here to help this guy right now? Like, I have called out for help to help my dad right now, and all you're doing is you're ridiculing him and saying, come on, get yourself together, your son's here. No. And it's like, no, that isn't, if I had known you were going to do that, I'd just take him myself. Like,
yeah,
why would I then subject myself to someone else being so fucking judgmental of someone who really needs help? And it was the same with the GP. Like, when I got him to the GP's office, he kind of looked at him, rolled his eyes, and went, "Oh, you've been drinking too much. You need to stop drinking." And it's like, well done, genius! Like, fucking hell, what would we have done without you? Like, it it makes me so mad, the amount of judgment that came from that. I mean, you know, to a certain extent, I get it, and they must see that quite a lot. Like, you know, alcoholism is not a unknown disease. People know it quite well.
Sure.
But it's just a complete lack of empathy.
Sure, there's a human being there. There's still pain there. There's obviously a something to be taken into consideration with people's stories, for sure. And substance abuse is coming from a place of pain, and you know, so yeah, man, that's crazy.
But
that's
it was
crazy.
To answer your question, it was 2 weeks after I had done that. But the GP turned around and he said, if you hadn't have brought him in now, he'd be dead tomorrow.
Okay, so it was very, very soon after.
Very soon.
Right. Oh. That's, I don't know what to say, man, but it's
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, it's amazing to see what you've done with your experiences. Very inspiring that you have gone down a path that you've reflected on things and chosen to make the most of your experience rather than let it eat you up and just cause that kind of domino effect.
Well, I did for some time.
Sure. Yeah.
I absolutely folded. Like, I folded into myself, which is why all of my relationships died off. So the relationship with the band died off. The relationship between me and my sister died off. The relationship between me and my mum died off. Because I folded within myself to the point where I didn't really want to know anyone else. It's like, you know what? I kind of don't care anymore. And I sadly, I accepted that for a good portion of my 20s. Well, basically since Dad died, all the way up to 27, 28, something like that. So about a decade's worth of self-flagellation and punishment, which everyone is really good at.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you something that really helped me was, and this is Jordan Peterson's words, not mine. He said, you want to treat yourself like you're someone you actually cared for, actually cared about. And if you think about what that means, like, say, for example, you were to come to me and you say, hey, dude, I've got some really heavy shit going on right now. And I'd be like, what are you talking about? Get yourself together. What are you complaining for? Like there's nothing wrong. Get on with it. You're being a wuss. Would I say that to you?
No.
Of course not. I'd be like, mate, I'm so sorry. That sounds terrible. How can is there anything I can do? Do you just want to chat? Shall we go somewhere? Like,
so that's how you were talking to yourself.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And if you imagine yourself as like 7 years old, before the world corrupts you and puts you in various positions.
Yeah, sure.
But if you imagine if you were going to talk to yourself, if I was going to talk to 7-year-old Jack and he's, beating himself over the back with branches or whatever, be like, hey man, like it's going to be okay. You're going to be all right. There are ways around this. All we have to do is maybe just take a step back. Let's try and think about this differently. But the catch-22 to that is that you can only practice that in the moments where you're most stressed, most elevated within those points. And you can practice it on a daily thing, but I find having to really audit my thoughts, because you are not your thoughts, you're not your emotions, you're not your body. You're the combination of all three things.
The thinker of the thoughts, as it were, kind of thing.
You're the vessel, right? You're the vessel.
Yeah.
And it's up to you how you choose to use that. And again, not my words. This is from a Buddhist monk. He does loads of TED Talks. I can't remember his name for the life of me though, but he's great. Well worth listening to. Treat yourself like you're someone you actually cared for, man. That's a fundamental step.
Yeah, for sure, man. I can definitely get on board with that, because I think that we don't give ourselves enough grace and credit for the experience that we're actually going through,
right?
Because it's all we've ever known. However, I think people are maybe finding their way back to the fact now that we are in a system that is not really got, our best interests as a priority.
Yeah.
So we need to just give ourselves a minute, take a beat sometimes, and think, look, we're doing our best here, and we are, even if we've gone through, a substantial amount of time not looking after ourselves, it's like, well, we are more than ever now kind of playing catch up with a very abnormal way of life.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, for people listening, give ourselves some grace, and we're all trying.
Yeah.
And it's just important to
everyone's just trying their best.
Yeah.
That's and you got to play the hand that you're dealt. That's that's the game of life, my friend. You get a certain it says, here you go, this is what you have to deal with now.
Sure. And don't isolate.
No,
and
God,
don't
no.
not talk about
no,
things.
God, no. Please, for the love of God, talk. It doesn't matter if it comes out rambling. It doesn't matter the way that you think about yourself. Like, all of that stuff can just live at the sideline. You don't need to pay attention to it. The thing that you do need to pay attention to is how willing you are to actually open up and talk about the black box that's inside here.
Sure.
And that's really, it's hard, man. It's really hard because a lot of people have been either brought up or trained in some way to not express that for various reasons. It's like a self-defense mechanism. I don't want to talk about my feelings because then I'm not going to get hurt, or I'm not going to get judged, or there's a ton of reasons why people don't talk about it.
Yeah.
But for the love of God, if there's anything going on where you think that you're inside a dark hole without any kind of light at all, you'd be surprised what talking to someone will do, and they'll just light a candle for you.
Yeah.
It's like, here's a little bit of sight, just a little, but that's all it takes. Like, it's harrowing.
I think what I've begun to notice as well with the importance of maybe going to therapy, speaking to a professional, therapist, is, I guess, and I'm only just realizing this myself, is that the people close to you, you can only lean on so much to a certain degree, but then it's going to be maybe bringing some negatives to look at them as your therapist. And I think we all just do this just without thinking about it. You know,
Yeah.
you've got, oh, I've got my people close to me. These are the people I need to talk to. But I think I've started to notice now that they can't do anything with that past a certain point. So it's taken me a while to realize myself that I think therapy is,
That's great, man.
Not
I'm so happy for you. That's such a great thing to do, really.
Yeah, you know, I've gone to a few sessions, but I think I really noticed the importance of how you should probably see it through for, you know, quite a few to realize its benefits and things like that, which I'm still working on, but I'm definitely going to, you know, go back myself, and it's the only way to process and really get down to the nitty gritty of like how to have any kind of scope on those experiences, you know.
Well, the useful thing about talking to someone outside of your immediate circle is that you don't have to feel guilty about offloading, because I think sometimes when you want to talk to your nearest and dearest about like a real problem that's going on with you, you may not want to because of the weight that you would essentially be adding to their lives as well. And you know these people well. You know they've got stuff going on. You know that this would add maybe an unnecessary layer of stress to their daily life. So the advantage of talking to someone completely outside of your circle is that you have free reign to completely offload, completely. Like, and you can really explore the darkest parts of your brain if you want to. Like, you know, that little voice that tells you is talking all the time and it tells you all this stuff, and you know, and you can really explore that and really understand the way that your mind thinks, but also about what your brain is telling you
from someone as well who doesn't know you. It brings advantages, right? Because again, people, your nearest and dearest, it can actually not give you a clear vision of that.
Yeah.
Because they are emotionally
They're
attached
too
to you.
close
They
to
wanna, you know, they're only focused on kind of, you know, I want you to feel better.
Yes.
Immediately.
Yes. yeah,
You know?
absolutely.
So yeah, no, that's really cool, man.
But I still think even so, having the conversations with your buddies, with your family, with whatever it is, like, you can just say, "Hey, man, I'm not okay right now," and that's fine. That's okay. There won't be any judgment, because the other person would have felt those at some point too. And just opening the dialogue, you can go as far as you want, or you can just say, "Hey, I'm not really feeling it right now. Can we just hang out for a bit, just so I have, you know, someone to be around?" Just the very act of being with someone else can just lighten the load a little bit, so that you're not just stuck in your own head thinking about all of these things the whole time.
Yeah.
Which would be a very lonely place to be.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, you were telling me as well about how when you were doing your care work, it's just like before uni, right?
Mm-hmm.
What did that do to your perspective, and did that help you in any way with your sort of, even when you look inward on yourself?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What did you experience with that?
So it actually changed day one.
Really?
Wow. I started my care work job, and I was supposed to be shadowing someone, and I turned up early. You know, I turned up like 20 minutes early, something like that. And I knock on the door. Mum opens the door and I say, "Hi, I'm Jack. I'm from so-and-so. I'm here to shadow." And she goes, "Oh, great. He's through there. Like, this is what you need to do. He needs to get changed. He needs to get ready to have breakfast, etc., etc." And I go in, and bearing in mind, like, I had no experience of care work before. Zero. So this was like, I'm just going to drop you in the deep end and see if you can swim. And
right.
so I go in, and he was a high dependency course. So that means like not much communication. They're also pretty immobile. So you need to help them a lot with their kind of day-to-day things. So like putting on clothes, you know, brushing your hair, doing your teeth, etc., etc. And so I got him ready, and that was okay. I was like, well, everyone needs to have clothes put on. I don't mind, you know, doing that. And I got him changed and got him to the breakfast room. And we were sat at the table. He was in his wheelchair, and his mum was feeding him and talking to him, just like we're talking now. And I suddenly had this huge value shift where my world was turned upside down in a second. And that's happened a couple of times to me, but this was the first one. And I just remember thinking to myself, holy fuck, how lucky am I to be able to talk to my mum? Just that. How lucky am I to be able to feed myself, clothe myself, make decisions about my day, and all of these things that everyone takes advantage of every single day that you don't realize can be taken away from you from an accident. You could join, you know,
Right.
you could be someone like that where you depend on someone, but everyone thinks, no, that will never happen to me. But I tell you, my whole value system changed.
Wow.
Completely. Like, yes, money is still important. You still have to pay bills. You still have to, you know, you have to live your life and what have you. But I mean, I will take being able to express my feelings and emotions properly and talking to my family over money any day of the week.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's the simple acts that people will miss the most. You know, being able to dress yourself in the morning. Next time you get up and get out of bed and think, actually, it's a privilege I can do this right now.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so easy to forget because it's a normality.
Yeah,
I
of course it
don't
is.
know how to.
Yeah, of course it is. But the thing is, I think that everyone, kind of like national service, I think that everyone should do 2 weeks of domiciliary care work.
Really?
Really.
Wow.
To understand what things you should prioritize in your life and maybe the things that you can let slide,
Sure. Right.
you know?
Yeah.
And I really think it would do people a whole lot of good, because there's also, and I'm guilty of this as much as the next person, but the society that we live in right now is very, it's very inward. It's very selfish. It's consuming stuff. We are the consumers, right? And it doesn't actually give service. I mean, I'll be careful with that term, but I really, really do think that people should experience it just for a couple of weeks, just to really understand there are people out there that this is not the normalcy of, and you should be thankful for everything that you have in front of you.
Yeah.
You know?
Sure. And I mean, I guess it really hits home even harder than reflecting on it in a way, or even you saying it. Is like, for a minute, someone might think, oh, let me just think about that for a second. Yeah, no, I am really, really lucky. But I guess this is kind of ingrained it that little bit harder because you've seen that someone is depending on you
Yep.
just to get through their day.
Yes.
That's, yeah,
Absolutely.
crazy.
And being able to go to the toilet by yourself, my friend.
Yeah, right.
That's a big thing, right?
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people get instantly put off by changing someone else. But here's a different viewpoint, right? Everyone needs to go to the toilet. And if I was him, would I want some guy cleaning me after I use the loo?
No, exactly. Yeah.
Of course you wouldn't. So you can empathize with that and be like, hey man, I'm just going to do this quickly. Like, I'll get you sorted out and that's it. And have a bit of fucking dignity about it. Like, because you know, if you were in their shoes, how would you want to be treated in that situation?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, shoe on the other foot. How would you interact right then? You know? So just having a bit of care towards others before you immediately say, well, this affects me. Like, maybe just think, how is it affecting them first?
Sure. Yeah. Would be cool. Would be cool. Even like, I guess for younger people to maybe have that as part of their educational thing. I mean, I'm not rebuilding the education system here, but I guess experience is everything.
Yeah.
The classroom, things like that, you're only going to get so far.
Yes.
All the most important things that I've learned are literally life experience things.
Yeah.
And everyone is capable of, unless you're someone who can't, but I just mean like, just making the most of their experience, life experience, and getting out there. And that's kind of where the education is.
That is where the education
We're only
lies.
going to get so much through the screens.
Yeah.
And just hearing someone say something and be
Right.
like, great, got it, man.
No, you need to go and experience it
Yeah,
firsthand.
I've got to be honest, I went on a firefighter experience day.
Amazing.
That again was the same kind of thing. It was like, okay, I didn't go out to these calls of what these people were experiencing, but and this is almost contradicting what I was saying, where someone was actually just saying their experiences, but they said things that I had never thought about before. And being with that person and them explaining this to me was surreal, because I thought, yeah, you're going out, you're putting out fires, you're being a hero. But kind of like what you were saying with the care work, they have like a lot of care work involved in their job, because this guy
All the services do.
would respond first to someone who couldn't do literally anything. It was a high dependency person who needed care, but they and the more heartbreaking thing as well is the fact that this guy is a really cool guy, very intelligent guy, but he had literally, like soiled himself in every way. But before anyone could get to that person, the firefighter has to be the person who makes it accessible. So after that, they're waiting for the other services to reach them. But sometimes it can be up to 2 hours where you are sitting with someone and they only have you, and they are just sitting in their, their mess. And they get a lot of those kind of calls, and it's like, really hits home that like you can make this person's day simply by, showing no judgment, and you're sitting with them through this very, well, I'm sure is kind of like awkward to an extent, but you have to not show any of that, because at the end of the day, you're essentially saving this person. So yeah, it was mind blowing, because I was thinking about, in my head, I was imagining these experiences that I might have as a firefighter, and completely disregarding that on a daily basis they're actually like, they're saving people, but in different ways. You know? So it's like they're running into fires, but they're also like,
It's such a cool thing to subject yourself to.
Yeah, it's making someone feel safe, and that can be really rewarding as well. So I might continue to pursue that. I'm just waiting to hear about like the next stage of that. But
I hope you do. I hope you do, man, because I think especially with your personality type, I think you could really make a difference to someone's day.
Thanks, man. Yeah, no, it's just I can't imagine many jobs that make you feel like that alive. And
the only thing that I would say about the care work is that it's incredibly rewarding personally, but it's also incredibly draining on your emotional battery. Because you invest your time and your emotion to looking after these individuals and making sure that they're having a good day, right? And so by the time you come back, you don't necessarily have a lot left, if anything, in the emotional battery to actually take care of yourself and take care of your things that are happening, inside your head and all of that stuff. Like, you run out. It's a capacity thing. So it is incredibly rewarding, and you can make a huge difference to people's lives, but it's also it can take a real toll on you.
Keep yourself in check kind of thing as well. Yeah, for sure.
Massively.
For sure. Well, that's one to think about, I think. I hear as well, changing the subject now a little bit, your business ventures since you left uni. I think you were telling me the other day, actually, that you're essentially starting a business.
Yep.
I know you can't go into too much detail right now at this moment in time about the actual business itself, but one thing that I thought would be cool to talk about was going from idea
Sure.
and kind of what moves you made first, all up until how you've kind of really got the ball rolling with it.
Yeah.
Because I myself am someone who's wanted to start, say, this business, that business, but it's sometimes hard getting out the gate with that idea. So
It's incredibly
take the floor, man.
Well, thank you. What I would say is, so I had the idea. I had the initial idea a few years ago. I won't go into what the idea was, but it was the idea of what the platform could be. Let's just say that. And I was like, oh, that's a cool idea. And like many people do, they say, oh, that's a cool
That's
idea.
a great idea
And
for
then
this.
don't do.
That's it, yep.
And then it's like, okay, well, I'll shelve that in the good ideas shelf. I'll just put that there. And you don't really do anything with it. And then I was talking to another friend of mine who had just come back from traveling, and we were talking about, we should do something. We should do like a business or a platform or something like that. And it was at that time that I was like, maybe that idea is actually worth exploring, and really, let's actually see how far you can run with it. Because you'll only find out if you do it.
Yeah.
So the first step was, I was like, okay, I think this is a good idea. What I want to do now is I want to validate the idea from professionals within that space. So I did a little bit of research online, and I found a very reputable company who has worked with lots of other very prestigious companies and have worked successfully with them. And they had a 10-minute free consultation where you can just have a chat. I was like, well, nothing ventured, nothing gained.
So just on that point, who did you call? I just mean, like, who do you call, say, in the company, like, to get that kind of opportunity? Do you know what I mean? Like
Emails, man.
Emails. Right.
Look, like every single business will have a contact us page, right? And you contact them.
Literally
and,
just send an email.
Right. Send an email. A lot of the time they'll have a consultation where you can actually spend 10 minutes talking about an idea. So obviously it depends on the business that you want to do, but for my business I wanted to make sure that it was actually something worth pursuing. So I really encourage talking to people that are already in that space that know what they're doing.
Sure.
Right.
Sure. Networking.
So, yeah, exactly. Like whatever you plan to go into, talk to people that are already there. Because that's the information that you want. That's the kind of key takeaways. And then, sometimes you have a good idea, sometimes you have a bad idea, but it's good to get that verification from someone in the space before you decide to really, jump in and go for it. So I had the initial conversation with the company, and, I told them about the idea, and they were like, that's a really good idea. Like, we don't have many that come across our desk, but that's a really good idea. I was like, awesome, great. Like that little flag of validation from someone inside the industry saying, yep, I think that's worth doing.
So first thing that springs to mind there before we carry on is something I would be really concerned about is, like, I've had this great idea, but how can I protect it when it's just an idea? And I'm worried that these people might just run off into the sunset with a really good idea and cast me to the side. So how do you get around protecting your idea from someone who you're pitching it to, but you don't have any kind of way of protecting it yet?
So it's a little bit of a risk, because it is a risk. But I mean, you can protect yourself with things like NDAs, which is a non-disclosure agreement that you get both parties to sign to say, basically, we're not going to share any of the documents that you say, or any of the ideas that you're coming across, or any of like trade secrets that you're doing.
Okay.
So you can protect yourself that way. To most companies, before you have a conversation about talking about ideas, they will have their own NDA template.
Okay,
So
so
they
it's a
can,
green light.
yeah, it's a
or
green,
red light if they're,
yeah.
you know.
If they say, oh yeah, fine, let's have a chat, and there's no kind of at least little protections in place, that's immediate. Do not talk to those people.
Right. So these people that you talked to, they did have this thing in place.
Yep.
And so that gave you a bit more
But
confidence
also
of-
in the initial email, I was like, look, I have this great idea and I want to talk to you about it freely, but I don't know how to protect myself. Ask. Ask the question, how do I get this protected before I can talk to you? And if they're most people, if you're willing to be like, I don't know how to do something, what do you recommend? Most people will say, oh, go and try this. That might do it. I mean,
Cool.
you might have to look around the subject and find out for yourself, but people are generally happy to kind of point you in the right direction.
Sweet.
And especially in business, because, for it's beneficial for them, it's beneficial for me.
Yeah.
It's a win-win situation,
Sure.
right? So, yeah, making sure that you can have an NDA in place, and then also the way that you talk about the idea. So you can do a high-level overview without revealing too much about the hows, whys, the tech, the markets, the whatever. You can just give like a general broad overview of what that would be. And
Okay.
that's okay. And that's okay. But being selective about the people that you talk to is also really important. Like if you can get warm introductions from people, so your personal contacts who you trust, if you talk to them and say, hey, like I'd like to talk to someone within this space, do you know anyone? That the warm contacts from that are so superior to cold emailing.
Right.
Because then they already have an immediate connection with that person. So when you reach out, you can say, oh, hi, I'm, X's friend. He mentioned that he spoke to me about you. Is it okay if we connect? Would you be open? This is a really cool way of phrasing these conversations. Would you be open to a 20-minute chat? That's not me saying, let's do this. That's not me giving a timetable. It's just asking the question. Would you be open to having a chat with me?
Right. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and the warm contacts from that, if you approach it, I mean, yes, you have to approach it carefully, right? You have to think about the people that you're going to talk to, right?
Yeah.
So you have to approach it carefully, but if you manage the response well enough, like you'd be amazed at some of the doors that can be just pushed open a bit through having some conversations.
Awesome. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so you have this conversation. People seemed quite keen on your
Extremely
idea.
keen.
So where does it go from there?
So from there, so here's the other thing. If you really want to see an idea, if you really want to see where an idea goes, make yourself accountable for it. And what I mean is invest some money, put your money where your mouth is, incorporate a business, really go through all the HMRC stuff, make yourself an actual business, then you are legally obliged to make the business happen. So it's no longer just this idea that you've been talking about. It's actually a company, right? And then you have responsibility for it.
Sure.
Yeah. So what I did was, the next step for that is I was going to go and get a bank loan to roll it. I just thought, well, I want to see where this thing goes. I really do. Like, I feel it in my bones. And to do that, I need some cash flow. And I'm prepared to put myself in debt to be able to explore that, which I have done, which I'm paying off, and it's fine. And it's, that is a responsibility, but it's that responsibility for the business that makes me accountable. Right.
Yep.
So I got the funding together, and then we conducted some thorough target market research, competitor analysis, what your market looks like, what your fundraising could look like, branding, how you're actually going to make the thing, what's your go-to-market strategy, how are you going to implement this, and really get into it. Like, not just surface level anymore. It's like, okay, if this were a business tomorrow, how would I run it? And that's a weird position, because you suddenly go from having this idea to now being like, okay, well, it's kind of beyond idea now. Now it's all about implementation. How do I actually get this across the line? So for me, and again, circumstances will vary. But for me, it was, I need to prove that this market exists somewhere. And to do that, I have to bankroll the research. So that's what I did. I bankrolled the research. And then I put together, in combination with the team, we put together a very, very, very good pitch deck. So make sure that you have your numbers, make sure that you have a really polished pitch deck that looks good, that is, investor friendly, etc., that covers all the main points that you want to. You don't want to waffle, but you want to present the main key points as to why someone would be interested. So things like your elevator pitch. If I was going to explain it to you in 30 seconds, how would I do it?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So things like that, super important. And then once you have all the research together and you've got the pitch deck for your business and you understand it inside out, because you do have to understand it inside out, because again, it's past the point of just being an idea now. It's actually starting to come together into this tangible physical thing that you're now responsible for. So having the responsibility of the loan, of the setting up the business, of making sure you do your taxes, etc., that means that I can't drop the ball. I can't, because I'm legally obliged not to.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
So adding that kind of, it is pressure. It is pressure. But when you make the decision to explore something to its fullest, make yourself accountable for it.
Yeah. And so these people that you approached and spoke to about this idea as well, they also gave you the confidence that this is something to pursue.
Yes.
Rather than through the advice that they gave you, they made you have a little bit more confidence of yes, you can make this happen.
Yeah.
And if they'd have told you that this is something that is probably not going to give you the benefits and give you the rewards that you're looking for in return, they would have said that this is,
absolutely
right. So you do find out in the beginning, after the things that you've kind of said there, that this is something I can pursue. And
validate the idea.
Validate the idea.
Validate the idea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, cool. And,
yeah.
And where are we now with what stage are you currently with disclosing what you want with what you can?
Sure. So I'm currently in my first funding round. That's what I've been doing. So I've been pitching to all sorts of people. And yeah, we're in an interesting place right now. I think I'm hoping by first quarter of next year we should be fully funded and ready to start building. But what I would say is that practice your pitch in front of people that don't know you, because they'll give you the straightest advice and say whether it was good, whether there's stuff you can tighten up, whether they didn't understand something that you went through, and really, and I can't stress this enough, practice. So I used GPT on my phone as a practice partner. So I would use the video so that it could see when I was changing slides or what have you. I'd say, imagine I was pitching this on Dragon's Den, and I don't want you to hold anything back. I want you to be completely directly honest. I don't want you to sugarcoat anything. I want you to sit as an investor would and see what you think. And, I went through the first time and it was I don't think I would invest today. But that's good. It's a good thing, because it means that it's not right. And it's going to be mad if it's right the first time anyway, because you have to go back, you have to reevaluate, you have to tighten up things, remove stuff, replace stuff, and really shuffle it around so that it works for you. Because At the end of the day, what people are investing in is yes, they're investing in the business, but they're also investing in you. So you need to make sure that you're up to scratch and you're ready to get involved and work. Because I'm waiting, my friend. The work ethic that I made for myself through university is I can get any project done and I can see it through from start to finish and I can deliver. Like, that's something that I've learned about myself, is that if I really apply myself, I can get it done. And that's where the belief comes in, where I know the moment we start building and start actually putting this thing together, I'm not stopping anytime soon.
Cool.
Not now. Now. And I believe I genuinely believe I can do it. And that hasn't happened to me for a very long time.
Right. I think that's really cool. The belief you can do it is not just some sort of like Tinsy Town kind of phrase, right? Because I was listening to a particular woman on a podcast not too long ago, and I think she's a great example. This woman called Trini Woodall. I'm sure many people have maybe heard of her. Yeah. And when she's actually saying her story that she put so humbly with the adversity of pitching and getting that idea, you know, to get to the heights that she believed that it could, I just think it's really important to kind of give the listeners or anyone who's starting a kind of business that the rejection is inevitable.
Yes.
And I mean, she said that she went through like so many hundreds of pitches before someone actually really gave her the recognition that it deserved. And now it's just skyrocketed and a global success kind of thing. So I think that just recognizing that it doesn't necessarily, the rejection doesn't have anything to do with necessarily whether your idea is good, because like you said, validating that idea in the beginning and knowing that it's gonna pull through with the right backing, and it will work for you, but really it's gonna be the persistence and going through all sorts of to find your people, as it were. I think with like music as well, it's inevitably going to work for you on some level. It's just the game of finding your people
who you click with,
who resonate with
what you want to see.
Exactly. Right. So and when it comes to the business, I guess that's the same kind of principle. It's
really interesting you say that. So when I first started pitching it to not necessarily actual investors, but people who had, you know, been a CEO of a company, so understand what it means to actually pitch a business, right? And even those people, I mean, thankfully, like something that I'm quite good at is pitching something because of the performance nature of it. But it was also it was encouraging that they were saying, yeah, this is really cool. What a great idea. And then I started pitching in front of people who weren't in my immediate circle, and you know, my mindset when I started pitching was, I need to get this guy on board. I need him to, you know, I need him to be part of this, and like almost like scrambling or, you know, desperate, right? The mindset now is, I'm offering you an opportunity to be part of something cool. And if you don't see it, that's fine, because I'll just move on to the next person. It's like that rejection thing of someone saying, look, like, I think it's a cool idea, but it's not for me. Cool. Great. That's fine. Thank you for having the conversation and keeping those contacts open. Right. Because you never know when it will be down the line where it's like, actually, I've now proved traction. We've now done what we said we were going to do, and we're now moving to expand. And this person was like, oh, well, you know, stay in touch. I'd love to know how you're getting on, etc., etc. Those people will become instrumental down the line.
Right.
So it's making sure that you don't burn any bridges.
Sure. And turning that failure potentially into a win down the line, just because it was like, yeah, no, actually, I really like that guy.
Yeah.
And you know, how you've presented yourself is obviously going to go a really long way. I'm definitely going to get my stuff together, see it through a little bit more.
Make yourself a business. I tell you, man, like as soon as you make the actual business, and it's like, oh shit, now I have to get a unique tax reference number.
Right.
And you have to start dealing with all of that kind of thing. And it's like, okay, now you're actually the director with shares in your company.
Right.
Now you're playing, because now you have responsibility. So now it's in your best interest to keep going.
Right. Okay. Again, with that pressure comes a little bit more confidence as well, because you're like, I have a business, like I do. Like, it doesn't matter whether it's necessarily not making millions yet, or you've got to the finish line or defined your finish line yet. At least you have those things in place where it's like, great, I'm
Play the game,
running, and I can actually make these moves.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, so the other objective is to keep the game going. Like
Right.
when I think of my business, of what I'm going to do, there's at no point do I think, right, and then we'll stop there. There's no kind of like finish point, because I've got endless kind of branches that I want to go into, that I want to explore, other avenues that I want to see. Like, it's to keep the game in play. Yeah. So with the business thing, it's like, cool, this is step one. Step one's going to take a little bit of time, and it's kind of the most risky, because you are going to have people that turn around and say, I just don't see it. I just don't see it from where you're positioned, which is fine, because it's subjective at the end of the day. But yeah, you'd be really surprised at how much movement you can gather just by just movement, right? It's not climbing the mountain in 2 weeks. It's not doing that, because frankly, the moment that you say, I'm going to climb that mountain in 2 weeks, you're already done. You're already out of it. What it should be is, I can see the top of that mountain, but for now, I'm just going to keep my eyes on my feet, and I just want to put one step toe to toe in front of the other, however little movement that is, because that compounds, right? So,
Right.
and the more that you just do, like, one tiny step, and it doesn't have to be huge. It can be, what's your business name going to be? That'll be your step for today, right? And it's those tiny steps that add up to, eventually you suddenly find out, you're like, I'm now at base camp. I still have all of this to go, but look how far I've come. And you don't realize it, because you're constantly looking at your feet, so you have no idea how far you've gone.
Right. Yeah. Just moving, just doing, focusing on that.
Yes.
And not necessarily looking right up to the top of the peak of the mountain.
Have a look.
Like,
Have a look.
yeah.
Like, see where you want to go, for sure. But don't think that you're going to get there in a rush. The fastest way to get somewhere is slowly.
Awesome, man. We should do this again.
Yes,
'Cause I'd
definitely.
like to come back and like hear more about how you're getting on.
Yeah.
And but it's been really, really amazing talking to you, and I'm so glad you're getting on well.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
No worries, man. I'll speak to you again soon. Let's do this again, bro.
Yeah, man.